Okay.
Hi, welcome to our ECCONET AP OIS training. So today we're going to walk you through three main scenarios. Before we get started, we're going to show you the main page, and we're also going to do an advanced search in case you need to look for the status of a specific invoice. And then we'll get started by coding an invoice. And the second scenario would be coding an invoice and connecting it to a PO number. And the last one would be coding an invoice and assigning it to someone for coding / approving. So we'll walk you through searching for a vendor via the search bar or via a PO number, what you need to do if the vendor is not in the system, what you need to do if the remit address doesn't match up with what's on the invoice, how you can flag an invoice if it's really important to mark it as hot. You also have a comment box there in case you need to provide someone with special instructions. And then lastly, we're also going to let you know what kind of email notifications you can expect. Okay, so let's start off with the home page so I can show you how you can get to AP OIS. So the first step would be hovering over ECCONET. Then you go to the second tab, Admin. You move over, hover over to over accounting, and then once the accounting options pop up, you can click on AP OIS. So once that loads, here we go. Now this is the main web page for AP OIS, and as you can see at the top of this window, we have multiple folders available. The first one would be the place where you would upload your invoices. The second folder will list the invoices that you've already uploaded. The one right next to it will show you invoices that have been assigned to you. And as you can see, it says 0 right here, right? Because nobody assigned any invoices to me, so it says 0. If there was anything, it would say 1 or 2, depending on how many I have. Right next to it, you can see that I have an My Approval folder. I didn't approve any invoices, so 0 again. And then my direct report approval folder does not open up on my end, so I don't need to worry about it. Now, if you've already coded and submitted an invoice and you want to see if it has been approved, all you need to do is click on Advanced Search. Then you have these options that you can search by. Usually I go by invoice number. It's just easier and quicker, and then I select Contains. Right, I type in the invoice number. I have one open right here, so 29730. I'm gonna hit search. Here we go. And as you can see, it contains an A. That icon means that it has been approved, right? It's an approved invoice. And if I want to find out more, I can click on View Invoice. I just need to click on the icon, and that will open up a separate window. Right, it's going to list the information here that I had entered. And I prepared it for coding only and assigned it to Bethany, right? And it will say that here too, prepared by me, coded by Bethany. And then Brad approved this invoice because he's the org owner for accounting. So once it's coded, it will be sent to the org owner so they can approve these charges. And once Brad approved his invoice, right, it will be sent to AP, our accounts payable team. And so here, this one, Elvira approved it right on August 17th. So I'll provide you with that information. And you can also scroll through and look through the details if you need to. Okay, now let's walk you through uploading an invoice and coding it. Okay, so again, I'm going to start up here, top left, upload invoice. I'm going to choose a file. Okay, I hit upload. And now, as you can see, we have this new window coming up right here. And this is actually not the invoice that I uploaded. This is just an invoice that has been rejected by someone, right? By Glenn. And as you can see, he commented saying that I need to recode it to this account because these charges apply to a different org. And so I need to revise that later, and I'm going to walk you through that as well. But to find that invoice that I just uploaded, I actually need to click on incomplete. As you can see on the left side of this window, we have multiple folders. So the rejected one automatically opens up because I need to revise it in order to submit it again. And so all I need to do is open the incomplete folder, select today's date. It says 1. I need to click on the pencil to be able to enter the information. And that will open up this window. Okay, so the first thing would be searching by the vendor name, and that would be here. It's CT Corporation, right? It gives you 2 options. So what you need to do is verify the address and make sure you're selecting the correct one. So what I usually do is I just scroll down and I verify PO Box 4349, Carroll Stream. Yep, that matches, and I click on that. And you can see a check mark coming up here. Now, if you can't find the vendor, all you need to do is contact our AP team. That would be Elvira or Tuan, and they can make sure to add a vendor for you so you can see it here. And the same goes for a vendor that you can actually find, but if the address doesn't match, you can also shoot them an email and they can update it if the vendor has a new remit address. Okay, now I don't have a PO number for this vendor, so I can't search by PO, right? But you have the option to search by PO number as well if you had one. Okay, moving on to the next step, which is entering the invoice number. I can scroll down, and what I usually do is I copy and paste it just so I can't make any mistakes. This one I can't actually copy and paste right now, so I have to enter it. 213568 622135686 62-RI. Okay. Now the invoice date is September 30th. You can either enter it or you can use this calendar. Okay, and so for the invoice period, I scroll through it and see sometimes they don't provide you with an invoice period. So what I end up doing is choosing the order date and then the invoice date. So the order date is September 3rd, 2020 to September 30th, 2020. Okay. And now, depending on the payment terms, you would select the due date. Now, because this one is an older invoice, I usually try to select a due date, within this week. So let's do Friday. And again, because it's older, I also mark it as hot. And so all you need to do is just click on the flag, and that will change it from regular to hot. Okay, that signals that it's important to pay this invoice as soon as possible. Okay, then I scroll down and I look for the amount that's due for this invoice. Total amount due is $10. Perfect. Okay, now this one is in US dollars, but if you do have an invoice in a different currency, you can click on the drop-down menu and select the different currency. Okay. You also have the option to add notes or AP instructions. So let's say you get a credit from a specific vendor, you can mention that here. You would also need to upload the invoice and code it differently, so our AP team knows that we have credit that can be applied. Different notes could be making sure that an invoice gets paid within a certain amount of time in order for us to qualify for a credit. So that's another example. And it really depends. It's different for every invoice and every vendor that we work with. Perfect. So now I can go to the next page. I don't have anything else to add. That will lead me to this one. Okay. Now, as you can see, I can select the type. This would be G&A. Right, and you have multiple options here. If it's a project-related invoice, you would select direct, but this one is a G&A invoice. Now, I need to choose the project or org number. This one is for finance. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you had a PO in place, you would select it here. But if you don't, as you can see, there is no PO in place. I don't have any options. I can just ignore it. Okay, I can move on to the next page. Well, actually, before I do, I want to bring your attention to the top of this window. As you can see, the title is Invoice Allocation. So you can choose to code this invoice, or you can assign it to somebody. And right now I'm coding it, right? I entered the coding information. And I can go to the next page. Perfect. So now I need to enter more information. That is the account number and type. So let me see if this is the right one. This is actually not the right one. Okay. Amount to pay, again, you want to make sure that you're entering the correct amount, otherwise it will get rejected. So I entered, well, let's remove it again. Right now it's highlighted in red, right? And if I were to enter a different amount, you will see that if I go to the next page, it will let me know that I can't because the amounts don't match, right? So I'm going to go to OK. I'm going to modify it to 10. Now they match. It changes color to black. And now I can move on to the next page. Perfect. And now before I submit it, I'm giving the option to review it one last time and just make sure that all the information is correct. Okay. Submit. And as you can see now, I actually coded the invoice and submitted it. It gets sent to the org owner. Again, that's Brad for finance, and then it will get sent to accounts payable once Brad has approved it. And one thing to note here is that once you code an invoice, you get an email notification letting you know that the invoice has been coded and been sent to Brad for approval. And so you get status updates, right? Once you approved an invoice, you'll get another email letting you know that it has been coded and has been sent to accounts payable. And then once Elvira or Tuan approve an invoice, you'll get another email notification. Perfect. So let's start over. And the second scenario would be to upload an invoice and connect it to a PO number. Okay, so again, we're going to go through the same steps. Choose files and then and again, I just uploaded a new invoice, but it will show me the rejected invoice again, just to make sure that it gets processed and just so it doesn't fall through the cracks. So I'd have to click on the incomplete folder again, open today's date folder, click on the pencil to be able to enter the information and assign it to someone. Okay, we're going to go through the same steps. Actually, this one is not a good example. Okay, let me upload it invoice. Okay, 291. Here we go. Click on upload. Okay, perfect. Oh, and to explain the other icon, so the first one is the pencil. So this is where you would enter the information in order to code it. The one right next to it will basically show you the PDF that you've uploaded, so you can scroll through it. And then the last one will give you the option to replace the PDF that you've uploaded, I think. Let's see, one open up. Okay, works up here. So as you can see, it says replace the existing file with a new uploading file, or extend the existing file with a new uploading file. So you have the option to make those changes here. And that was the third icon here. Okay, now going back to preparing that invoice for coding and then assigning it to somebody. So I'm going to go back, click on the pencil. I'm going to search for the vendor, which is CT Corporation again. You always want to make sure that this matches. Perfect. You see the check mark, invoice number. This one I can actually copy and paste, so that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to go and look for the invoice date, which is April 30th, 2020. And the invoice period, we don't have an invoice period for this invoice either. So again, I'm just going to choose the order date. Okay, that's March 17th, 2020 to April 30th, 2020. And again, depending on the vendor payment terms, you would select the according due date. Now, because this is an older invoice, I'm going to try to make sure that we pay this as soon as possible. So I'm setting a due date of this Friday. I'm also going to mark it as hot by clicking on this flag. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to scroll down to look for the total due for this invoice, which is $30. And again, this is in US dollars, but if you did have a different currency, you could choose a different one from the drop-down menu. Okay, I don't have any specific notes, but I could add now, please pay by 11/6. Okay, perfect. Now I can move on to the next page. That just led me to the invoice allocation page, right? Again, earlier I actually coded an invoice, and now I'm going to assign it to someone. So I'm going to click on this, and you can choose if you want to search by name or by project and org. I usually always go by name, it's quicker. And you can start entering the letters of the person that you want to send this to. So I just searched for Boomer. Correct, I'm going to select that. And for reason, you can say, you know, whatever the reason is. For me, it requires PB's approval. And then I'm going to go to the next page. And now this invoice was sent to Bethany Boomer. She's going to review it and enter the coding information for this one. Okay. Now moving on to our last invoice, which would be uploading an invoice, connecting it to a PO number, and then coding it. Okay, we're just gonna do this one for this training. Okay, again, I have to make sure I'm selecting the right folder. This is the one that I actually want to code, so I'm going to click on the pencil. Perfect. So again, I'm gonna, well, actually, let me show you how you can search by a PO number. So you can click on PO, and you can enter the PO number that you have for this vendor. Let me quickly recall it. Okay, so I have it. It's 354, 353. Gonna hit search, and this is the correct invoice, right? I need to click on this drop down here. Oh, this is actually not the right one. So now how I found out that it's not the right vendor is by looking at the name. It says New Deal Advisors, but that doesn't match with the invoice because the invoice is from Insights. So sure there's a typo, 354. Oh, 334. Okay, let's hit search. And now this looks right. Perfect. Again, you want to make sure that you're selecting the right vendor ID depending on the address. And this one contains the 4515 Satan Center Parkway. That would be this one. Perfect. I can see how much the current PO amount is and how much is open, right? You can also see the payment terms, which is helpful sometimes. And you can also see the account that you would use if you code this invoice. Now I'm going to click select. And as you can see, it populated the vendor name, and you can also see the check mark here. Again, I'm going to copy and paste the invoice number. The invoice date is December 6th. Perfect. Okay, due date, right? Again, the payment terms were net 30. So if I were to code this, back in December, I would just choose January 5th, like it's listed here. Some vendors due date, others don't. So whatever it is, that's what you would enter here. Again, I'm going to choose this Friday. I'm going to mark it as hot because it's old. If it's not an older invoice, you don't need to mark it as hot. That's really only if it's an urgent one that needs to be paid as soon as possible. And so now we can move on to entering the invoice amount, which is $475. Perfect. I don't have any specific instructions to add. If you were assigning an invoice to somebody else that doesn't know the coding and you have the coding information, you could enter that here as well. And so once they, open the invoice on their end, they have the coding information that they could add. But if you don't have it, that's fine too. You can just assign it. Okay. If we don't have any questions, then I'm going to move on to the next page. Perfect. So as you can see, I got an error letting me know that this invoice is duplicate. I've already submitted it back in May. So I'm going to go and say OK. And I can delete it. So as you can see on the left side of this window, we have all these folders, and all you need to do is click on this trash bin here to delete this invoice, since it's already in the system. And it's asking you if you're sure that you want to avoid it. Yes. Perfect. You've successfully avoided this entry. Okay. And now it's gone. Okay. Now let me find a different invoice to show you how you can successfully connect it to EPO without the duplicate error message. Okay, so I'm just going to choose the invoice that I uploaded earlier. So I'm going to click on the incomplete folder again, select today's date, click on the pencil, and this is the one that I skipped earlier. Now this is a special case. This does not apply to all invoices. The vendor name is actually Pacific Office Automation. This is the vendor that we're working with, but US Bank is actually handling their financial services, and so that's why the invoice was issued from US Bank. And so I know that this is their most recent address, so I'm going to select it, but normally you would double check and make sure unless you're 100% certain. Okay, the check mark is here. I'm going to go ahead and enter the invoice number. It's listed at the top here, so I'm going to copy and paste it and make sure that it's complete. Okay, you want to make sure that there's no space. Sometimes if you copy and paste it like I did, sometimes there's a space in the front. You want to make sure that to remove that before you move on. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Invoice Date, which is scroll down, date of invoice, October 23rd, 2020, perfect. And now, as you can see, the invoice period is from 10/28 to 11/28. And the reason why it's not 9/28 to 10/28 is because I've already coded this invoice. I know that it we already dispersed, so it doesn't apply. Sometimes if they didn't receive payment yet, they will just add on the current charges to make sure that those are getting paid also. Okay, the due date is 11/28/2020. And I don't need to mark it as hot because it's just a regular invoice that's going to get paid on time. Okay, now you can see that the total due is this amount, but we actually paid this part already, so I actually need to calculate the correct charges right now and make sure that I'm adding the right amount. Okay. Let's try to use the calculator on my computer so you can follow along. This is going to be a bit dry. 7137.97. Okay, plus. Okay, and so what I do for this invoice, simply because there are multiple charges here, as you can see, this one is pool 1. I just break it down here too for the approver, just so they know exactly what it's for. So I'm just going to enter the total, which is 756137. Okay. And as you can see, it lists the address too. So pool 1, I'm just going to say Edison, New Jersey, so they know exactly what it's for. And then I'm going to scroll down. Until I see the next charges. And that would be here, pool 2. Right, this is for our Burlingame office. So that is 368.76 plus 3503. $379, perfect. And then we have the pool 3 charges for Camp Lejeune. $797.88 plus 125.85. Perfect. Okay, and we actually have a new charge here, which is pool 4, and that's for Colorado. Okay. Perfect. Now I'm just going to add everything and then add the total amount to the top here. So this is 119.38 plus 1. Perfect, and this would be my total amount, and not the 20,000 that were listed. Again, I just want to make sure you're entering the correct amount that's due for this invoice only. Perfect, it's also in US dollars, so I don't need to do anything here. And I don't have, well, actually I do have AP instructions here, right? Office automation as the vendor. Perfect. Now I just want to make sure that everything matches and that I didn't miss any information. I'm going to scroll through the doc that I uploaded. Okay, great. That looks good. Now I can go to the next page. And now, because some charges are for G&A and one charge is actually project related, I need to enter two types of codings. The first one would be G&A. Let me open up the correct information here. 1 second. Okay, so this is G&A. I would choose account 182, and whoever's working with the vendor would have the correct coding information for you. Actually, apologies, this is overhead. Okay, it's 182. And now, as you can see, I have the option to connect it to a PO number. And as you can see, I only have one option to choose from. So I'm going to click on that to connect it to the PO. And the next charge would be direct, because it's related to a project. And that I would need to connect. Let me see, I think it's... Oh. Yeah, so I accidentally changed the org for the top one. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that I select the right one. This one is 5720464. Camp Lejeune follow-on work, that's correct. And if I just want to make sure that it's correct, I'm going to scroll down again and look for the charges. Yep, pool 3 is Camp Lejeune. Oh, it looks like I just had to enter the PO again. So for the top one, it was this one, and then for the bottom one, it's a different one because this is project related. So we have two different PO numbers in place. Now I'm going to go to the next page. So this is where I would actually enter the amount that's due. Okay, so again for Camp Lejeune. That was pool 3. Yes, okay. So here the first thing that I need to do is actually connect it or select the right account number. So the first one, which was an overhead, I would have to pick. Let me make sure I'm selecting the right account number. Okay. Equipment, and that's lease equipment, yes. Okay, I would have to add the other amounts together to get the total amount that goes that belongs to this org, and then for the project related cost should be the same. Let me see. $55932. Nope. Okay, so it varies, and simply because it's a project-related expense. So I have to look for account 55932, 55932, and that would be here, office equipment rental, correct. I would need to enter the total amount for the Camp Lejeune charges here, which was pool 3, 12192373. Perfect. And then for the top, I would have to add those together, but I'm just going to subtract it here. 0.92373. And so the rest goes to this org, which is 808454. Perfect. Now see, I just changed the amount to show you that it won't let you go to the next page. You will get an error notification because they don't match. So again, I have to make sure I'm entering the right amount so it matches up here. If you add that together, it needs to match to the amount listed on the left, and it does. And now I can move to the next page. Elvira, before I move to the next page, do you know what people need to do with this part here? I actually never had to make any changes to this, but who would normally let you know, or someone that's submitting an invoice, that they actually need to add a retainage or select yes to new retainage here?
I think this information comes from the PO that we have on ECCONET. So it's set as default if there's retention or not.
Perfect. Awesome.
And I think it says here, blurry, so I can't really see it. I think when there's a PO issue, I will get an alert once the invoice is on OIS pending my approval, which then I'll reach out to the cost tracker, either appeal mod or retention question if we have any.
Okay, got it. So it would basically start at the PO level. Whoever's submitting a PO or submitting a modification, it would automatically transfer that information to OIS?
Right.
Okay, perfect. All right. So since I don't need to change anything here, I'm just going to move on to the next page. Oh, please select a WBS number. See, that's something I forgot, thank God. So I can show you that also. So for project-related expenses, right on the previous page, I just entered the first digits to select the right project. But then on this page, you would actually have to click on it and select the right WBS number. And for this one, it would be the PMT non-labor, because it's a non-labor charge. So once I select that, I'm good to go. And I should be able to move on to the next page. Here we go. As you can see, I added a comment earlier. It will list that here, which is really nice. So it provides you with an overview. You can make sure that all the information that you've added is accurate. You can see that you connected it to a PO. It will list those POs here and here as well. And so once you made sure that everything is accurate, you can hit submit. Okay. And now that invoice was sent to Ryan Kors, who is the org owner. And then it gets sent to Dan, who is the project manager for Camp Lejeune, because one of the charges was a direct charge for his project before it gets sent to AP. And so that's basically how you submit an invoice, how you connect it to a PO number, and how you can assign it to someone. I'm going to close this window, refresh this page. And again, you should be able to see all the invoices that you have in your folder, or that you assign to somebody here if they haven't been coded yet. So for the lower part, for example, it says pending your coding. These are invoices that I've uploaded, but I didn't code them yet. I'm waiting for some information before I can code these. And then for the top part, you can see that it doesn't say pending your coding because these are invoices that I have prepped for coding and assigned to somebody. And so right now, these invoices are still pending in their My Assigned folder, and once those individuals code these invoices, they will be gone here as well. So I will no longer see them on my end. And before we finish this training, I just want to talk about the rejected invoices. Right, as you can see, this is the only icon with an R. So if I click on it, right, it will provide me with information why it was rejected. And Glenn let me know that I need to recode it simply because this is not a legal invoice. And so in order for me to revise it, I need to go to my uploaded folder. Right, and it will automatically open the rejected invoice first, just so it gets processed as soon as possible. And as you can see now, I can make those changes here, or I can go back and change information here as well before I submit it again. But this was basically it. Yeah, that concludes our training here on OIS.